This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Oh, man, and then they started catching up.
Man only goes so fast.
So how did you guys actually get away?
Well, Bob climbed in the back seat.
And Jerry popped the hatch as I started to go through the boxes.
Okay, yeah. Improvising, yeah, I like it.
And you got to be prepared.
So just as Jerry took a sharp turn, I grabbed 2 of the screwdrivers from his toolbox and I threw them at the car.
Got the front tire. They couldn't make the turn.
Yep, collided with a barrier.
And it must have taken them right out of the action.
And that's why we were late with this week's coffee run.
Just in time for episode 420.
420? Blaze it.
And with that, welcome to the 420th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we're tackling chase mechanics and how to use them properly in your role-playing games. Along the way, we'll take suggestions, questions, and examples from the chat room for life. Then we'll jump into the after show for some initial discussions. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan.
There we go.
All right, kids. It is time to check temperatures before we enter the house misdirected. Phil, how you feeling?
Like a freaking trash fire, man. Physically, I'm fine. Mentally, well, I wasn't planning on having to deal with a coup on top of my pandemic. And I say that jokingly, but all kidding aside, like I've been pretty wrecked this week. I was pretty wound up. If you follow me on Twitter, I apologize. I was hot on the tweets. I was not very respectful to a number of government officials. I'm not apologizing for that. I just wasn't. I had a lot of frustration to work out, and it worked itself out mostly through Twitter. And what I couldn't work out just turned into depression. And I had all but given up on Friday evening after work and just kind of crawled on the couch and thought I was done. And then, like a little sliver of hope arrived. I think we all know what happened. Can I tell my joke?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Please.
There's a term for a president who doesn't have a Twitter account. But you know what there isn't? 2 terms!
Ba-dum-bum.
That's my dad joke. Anyway, when they banned Trump from Twitter, I found the will to get up off the couch, feed myself, and pull myself together. And then I spent the rest of the weekend basically going through my self-care checklist and checking every one of them off. I was like, the only way I'm going to turn around this weekend into anything is literally to engage every self-care trick that I know. Culminating with today, I bought a Apple Pencil because I just needed to buy something. And I had spent all weekend thinking I was going to buy a Raspberry Pi, but I'll talk about that in the after show. Anyway, my mental health is a trash fire because, we're just living in one, historic moment after another. Mm-hmm. I realized, and then I'll pass it over to you guys. I realized what my problem is with this is that as a Gen Xer, I just expected to be wiped out in one flash of light. I was not prepared for a slow burn end of the world. Like I was expecting sirens, flash of light, and gone. Right? Like I was not prepared for this. This is like an endurance test, and it's hard. Like I'm doing what I can do. How about you, Jer? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well mentally. Last week I went through the same thing. I actually didn't know about everything that was going on until about 3:30 in the afternoon when somebody tagged me and said, "What do you think about what's going on?" And then I checked the Yahoo. So I was at work, actually working down in boiler rooms and so on before I saw it. So I just sat there, kind of flabbergasted, staring at my computer screen until I figured out. But after that, I was good. It started to wind down. I was not happy, but and then for me, it was watching all of the people get kicked off the no-fly list, or you get put on the no-fly list, and watching all these tough guys break down and cry over being dragged off planes, people cheering as they were dragged off, that gave me some life. A little bit of shade.
It was pretty enjoyable. I have a couple of I've seen a couple of them go by my feed. Yeah. But
unfortunately, I also came down with a mild, my typical winter cold. It lasts for all of about a day. I tend to get like 5-day colds in like 18 hours. And so I went scratchy throat, really scratchy throat, a whole day of sniffling, sneezing, coughing, and now I'm better again. So that's what I've been up to. How about you, Bob?
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat to Phil. My Twitter feed has not been the most uplifting.
Bob and I have been tag teaming it like all weekend long.
Say, if I see some shit, I'm retweeting it. Like, just in case somebody hasn't heard this already. Ba-boom.
When you yelled at Ted Cruz, that was my favorite.
Ted Cruz to shut the fuck up. Yeah. It was a thing. And because it was a thing, it, like Phil said, it's like an endurance trial. And I didn't think my stamina was that great to begin with, and now it's being tested daily.
I mean, like, I don't think we're through it, right?
No, we're not. We're not
going to go into it in detail here, but I don't think we're done.
Yeah. So, so the gymnastics that I'm doing some days is exhausting. It led me to my first gummy experiment, and that, at least, gave my friends a laugh. So,
I certainly enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed hearing about it online.
Yeah,
physically, I'm pretty good. My allergies have been just pissing me off to the point where I started snorting my Flonase again, because it's just something in my house, like with the house being all closed up. I don't know, maybe I got to clean my room again, but needless to say, runny nose, sniffling, watery eyes, occasional sneezing, and my allergies are just like, so I keep drugging myself up on antihistamines and decongestants, and then my ass drags because I'm friggin' drugged. So I'm having the opposite problem where I'm running off of caffeine because I get anxious and won't go to sleep. And so I just stay up really late till I can't stay up anymore. Yeah. So I'm running on like low sleep, and then I'm just caffeinating and then forgetting to drink water. Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting at my desk and I'm like, man, I am parched. And I'm like, this is a bad sign. Like, I gotta go drink some water.
I have gotten my body so conditioned now that it's automatic that if I reach for my water bottle and there isn't water in it, I fill it up. And so I'm constantly drinking water.
Oh,
so I don't have a dehydration thing. I do, however, need to extreme close-up cam. I need to do some COVID grooming because this beard and my mustache.
You gotta trim that guy up.
It's like hanging down over my lip, and it's annoying the crap out of me. And I keep getting stuff in it when I eat, and I have to wipe it clean. And okay. I think we're all mentally.
An hour ago, my wife just did this for me. So.
Looking sharp
again. So
yeah, I got. I'm working on a kind of quasi mullet. But all right, we can go in the house because I think we're good.
Yeah, so. It's just all mental.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a thing. All right, so one thing.
One thing.
Let's do one thing. Phil, what's your? Because you didn't fill it in, so I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. My one thing's gonna be our Forbidden Lands game. We had a really nice session on Sunday. It's still we're still in the God, we just talked about this topic. I just lost the term. Was it
interlude?
Thank you. We're still in the interlude. But we had like a really good session of discovery and stuff. And then something happened while we were playing, where a couple pieces of the game that I hadn't nailed down fell into place behind the scenes.
Ooh,
like
nice.
I came up with some ideas while we were playing, and I was like, oh, and like,
I like those.
Got really excited. I was like, oh, I had not put those two things together, and now I will, and like wrote myself like a little note, so I'm feeling better about that. But I always like our Forbidden Lands game. It's not the fastest paced game, like there are days where you guys just like, like you entertained the dwarves from the neighboring village.
Yeah.
Like that was the crux of the session.
Yeah.
Those are good adventures, though.
Yeah, it's funny because they're like adventures where, and again, I don't want to say this and make it sound the wrong way. Like we didn't roll a lot of dice. And we do, I guess maybe the better way to say it is we didn't engage a lot of mechanics of the game. And it was a lot of role playing, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Yep. Nothing wrong with it. But the thing is, like, the way this game works is you get a couple sessions of this before we head back out on the road.
Yeah.
And like we're getting close to heading out on the road again. But, we're kind of like closing up the interlude. But this was good because this was like, I don't know, like 10 sessions ago, when they went and visited the dwarves were like, we will come visit you in the spring. And like now the calendar has advanced sufficiently far that it was like, oh, the dwarves have come to visit.
Yep.
So it was kind of neat. Like it was kind of neat to see the campaign calendar actually like playing a role in the game. Anyway, that's my one thing. Jer?
I just wanted to watch something some night that wasn't quite as heavy as Star Trek. So
Sure.
I was just kind of bouncing around, and I clicked on Lucifer, which I've never actually seen the whole show. I've seen an excerpt here or there, and watched the pilot, and 5 episodes later it was like 2 a.m. And it's a great show. It's got a complicated main character. By now it's 6 seasons in, so I'm assuming everybody else but me has seen it. But
or me, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I think it's based on it's the character from
the Bible.
Neil Gaiman's.
I think he's the character from the Bible.
Yes.
Well, no, it's from DC.
It's based on Neil Gaiman's DC character. And so it's got that kind of it's not in the same universe as Good Omens, but it's got a lot of that feel to it.
Cool.
And it's a lot of fun. It's the main character is interesting and complicated. It's a redemption story, full of lots of good stuff. So it's kind of neat. So anyway, I think you'd enjoy it. So.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Good.
And how about you, Bob?
Yeah. So I may need to self-medicate before the next football game.
All right, listen.
Speaking of 420, speaking of episode 420.
Yes. Listen, let's just be serious here, right? Like, it's some exciting football.
Yes.
But no one wants a playoff game to come down to a Hail Mary pass.
No.
Like, defending a Hail Mary pass.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I was up. Dante and I were, like, standing in front of the TV, like, yelling at the TV when that play started. Oh, my God.
Yes.
I was so uptight throughout that whole game. When that game was over, I looked at my Fitbit to see what my heart rate was. My heart rate was 114 when that game ended.
Dude, sitting watching a football game is not 114 is not good for sitting and watching.
That's not good for sitting watching a football game. So I was like, okay, I took some deep breaths. I did a little, like relaxing, and then I said, okay, I'm just gonna like unplug, and I laid down for a half an hour and just relaxed. So it was.
For those who don't know, last weekend was the playoff game for Buffalo, and it was a combination of some very tight plays and a call by the officials that everybody across the country feels was completely wrong. And had the Bills not managed to pull it out in the end, they would have lost that game because of a bad official call.
And had that call gone our way, the game would have just been over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we would have run out the clock and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. When you're from Buffalo, even if you're not into football, when you get the Bills get this far, you're into football.
Yeah.
Like,
long story short, for those that aren't in the know, it is the playoffs. Buffalo made the playoffs for the 3rd year in a row under the current head coach, who has turned the team around completely. And this victory in a playoff game was our first playoff victory in 25 years. Okay?
Yep.
25 years. So we were pretty damn excited.
Basically the whole time I've lived in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So yes, it was very exciting, but it is not like the opposing team throwing a Hail Mary pass as the last play of the game is not
how you want your game to end.
No,
but
especially since earlier in the regular season, we lost a game on a Hail Mary in the final second. And that
I'm
was
telling you, the guy who
triggering.
batted it down, though, that guy had his eye on the ball the whole time. Like, it was good.
It was, there were some really good plays, and people were excited, and it was exciting. It was exciting football.
Yes, and now we get to play another playoff game at home because we were the second seeded team in the conference. So we get to play another playoff game at home, and then if we win that, we're one more game away from going to the Super Bowl. So there would be 4 total games.
At which point the city of Buffalo will lose its
our shit, yeah.
And here in Buffalo, they're allowing up to 6,000 fans in the stands. So there's 6,000 fans plus 700 staff and everything else.
Yeah.
But only season ticket holders could buy tickets. And last week it was they do it by seniority.
Yeah.
So if you got tickets last week, you can't get tickets this week. One of my employees, his kids have season tickets, and so they were it was all done by seniority. They ran out of tickets 3 minutes before their time to buy came up. They missed going to this week's game by 3 minutes. So they're going to be sitting at home. And they're also hoping somebody drops out because then they're the second. There's one group of people ahead of them. So if somebody drops out, then they'll be able to go to the game. So gotta say, watching the game, I only saw 2 people in the stands that were not wearing their masks.
And honestly, the way they've got everybody separated, if they were from the same bubble, probably not a huge thing because they're outdoors and they're separated from a lot of people. Like, I still would have worn it because, you got to move around through that place. But that's less egregious than getting on a plane without one or standing in line in a Tim Hortons.
I only saw 2 people without masks. I think they were probably eating or drinking. So I think everybody was trying really hard not to mess this up for everybody else. So.
Well, and I think, I think the state came up with a good compromise. I think originally they were like, no one's going to the playoff games, and we were like, but my dude.
Yeah. There's a bunch of states that have
right, and they were like,
similar.
okay, we think we can do this in a way that is safe and reasonable. And I know there's contact tracing involved. So if you went, they're checking up on you to make sure you provide
test results that you had gotten tested prior to going to the game at some point. So they were smart about it. Honestly, it's one last thing about football, and then we'll move out of the one thing because we don't want to go too deep into sports ball with the rest of these people sitting around getting bored. But the most frustrating thing about watching football this season is they've got all these COVID protocols in place, and you're supposed to wear a mask on the sidelines. The only time you're not supposed to wear a mask is if you're on the field with your helmet on playing the game, or if you're actively getting a drink of Gatorade or whatever. Otherwise, you're supposed to have your mask on. And they keep showing people on the sideline, from coaches to players to staff, whoever, mostly coaches and players, with the mask down under the nose, or chewing on the top of the mask, or the mask under their chin, or no mask at all. And it's like, you are supposed to be setting an example as role models and stuff like that. And you're doing a shitty job of promoting this mask wearing thing. And then you see, Cleveland had to go without half their coaching staff into their last playoff game because they all got COVID. Well, gee, I wonder why. Because you're running around without masks on. Take the precautions. They had to go without all of their wide receivers the week before, the last week of the regular season. Cleveland had no starting 4 wide receivers, all off with COVID because they're all in the same room together when they're doing their film work and stuff. It's like, duh. So, enough about sports ball.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask, motherfuckers. Man. All right, on to announcements. We have one of those.
Yes. Okay, first, remember, Down with D&D has now been renamed as Mastering Dungeons.
Yeah.
So join the Mad Wizard and Teos as they discuss the latest iteration of the world's most popular role-playing game, Mastering Dungeons.
I've got that rolling on the scroll on the screen next to the chat room stuff, and
Very
I
nice.
will be updating the show things that are scrolling the show icons, logos. Logos is probably the more accurate word. To remove, sadly, the She's a Super Geek one, and we're going to update.
Oh well, yes, we're retiring the.
Yes, we're retiring the She's a Super Geek one, and Down with D&D is going to get a new one at some point. So we'll be upgrading that to reflect it. But yes, new name, and it's in our show notes now, so we will call it by the proper name when we read our scripted parts.
We need to make a pennant and hang it up in the rafters.
I mean, for the most part, we're like Ron Burgundy. If it's on the teleprompter, we'll read it. So
yeah, that's us. That's totally us. DS9 Watch Party Week 21. We're getting close, man.
Week
We're like
21.
a month out from being like less than a month out from being finished with Deep Space Nine. I am filled with sadness.
Yep.
I also forgot how intense season 7 is. Like season 7 is kind of an unrelenting ride. Like it's
a little bit.
And tonight's episodes are no different. The siege of what is it? AR 588 or something.
Something along those lines.
That is a particularly brutal episode. And the one after it, Covenant, is if you are not a Gul Dukat fan, like that is Gul Dukat being Gul Dukat, like.
And I will say that if you are following along, but not watching all of the in between recommended side episodes that Phil puts on the list, watch Take Me Out to the Holosuite. It's a lot of fun, and it's got a great message in it.
Yep. It's a fun episode, and it's only not on the list because it is a strictly bottle episode that doesn't really move anything anywhere, but it is a very good episode.
Yeah, it's got a lot of heart and goes places. I'll just say what I'd forgotten. I don't know if they ever addressed this in the show, but this is the second wife Worf has lost to an enemy.
He was never actually married to Kalar.
I thought he was.
Kalar. They never actually performed the ceremony because she was like reluctant because he was like all super like, we need to do this because it's tradition, and she was like, oh. But don't become Worf's mate because that's a bad news.
It's not safe.
It's like getting involved with Luke Skywalker. It's not going to end well. So, all right.
Yes. So that should cover the announcements.
Alrighty.
And that means, you know what it's time for? It's time for a segment that we haven't done in a little while.
Dust it off.
You remember the code?
Yep.
I think so. Let me try.
Access granted.
There we go.
Told you.
All right. Welcome to the garage. It's a little dusty in here.
All right. Yeah. It's my first time in here. I like it.
I think we bring you. I think we brought you in here once before.
Wasn't this dusty last time I was here? Tell you that much.
No, that's my fault.
It's been a while.
So, tonight we're gonna talk about chase mechanics. We were checking the list of topics that we pinned a while back, and we came across this topic. It's been a while since we opened up the garage, and thought it would be fun to take a look at this. So tonight we're gonna look at how chase mechanics work, some games that use them for better or for worse, and how best to use chase mechanics in your game.
Cool. All right, Phil, get us started with what chase mechanics are by giving us a definition right after I hit this button.
Behold! You are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Yeah, let's get a definition going here. So chase, right? To pursue in order to catch or catch up with, which is a great place for us to start. In a chase, so we're going to be very clear tonight. Chase, not race. Okay? Not talking about racing. We're talking about chasing. In a chase, there are at least two groups or individuals. There is the quarry who is being chased and the pursuer who is chasing the quarry. Okay? Think Catch That Pigeon, right? If you're old enough, you remember Catch the Pigeon, the cartoon.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. A chase has basically two major outcomes that could occur, right? The first one is the pursuer catches the quarry.
Okay. And there's going to be a couple of variants of this. First, the pursuer simply closes the gap between them and they reach the same space as the quarry. Or they somehow render the quarry unable to run away. They're damaged, they're entangled, they block their way. Somehow the pursuer ends up catching up with the quarry themselves.
Exactly. And then the other outcome, which should be obvious, is that the quarry evades or outruns the pursuer.
There's a couple of variants on this one. The first is going to be if the quarry moves a sufficient distance away from the pursuer, that the pursuer can no longer catch up. The second is that the quarry evades the pursuer in such a way that the pursuer can no longer determine which way the quarry is. And lastly, the pursuer somehow makes the quarry makes it so the pursuer is no longer able to give chase. They're damaged, they're entangled, their vehicle breaks down, there's a gap in the road, they cut the bridge from out behind them, something along that line.
I was going to say there are a lot of examples. Jerry's named many of them, which is great, right? So in RPGs, a chase is when the characters and NPCs take the role of quarry and pursuer, and a chase occurs until one of those conditions is met. And this could be, right? So this could be a number of things. Right? This could be a foot race between spies running through a suburban mall. It could be a flying carpet chased by knights riding dragons through the spires of a fantasy city. It could be two starships, chasing each other through an asteroid field. Right? This transcends genre.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And it's important because there are a lot of games out there that have chases, especially in a lot of written materials, where there's chases as part of the storyline or part of the adventure, but they're not always handled really well.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about this a little bit.
Yep.
Go ahead.
All right, so now that we understand what a chase is, can we look at how it's represented in an RPG, Jerry?
Well, we're going to start by building off of Phil's definition. There's a couple different mechanisms and procedures that we see when we do a chase mechanic.
Yep. So a chase is going to start with the narrative setting up a situation where someone chases someone else, right? So the characters have stolen the MacGuffin, and as they make their way out of the palace, they're spotted by the Imperial Guards, and the characters run instead of engaging in combat.
Right. And then next, we're going to determine who the quarry is and who's the pursuer. It should be noted that it's possible to have multiple pursuers and multiple quarries. And when you do that, it makes resolving what happens a lot more complicated, but doesn't really change the outcome, nor how we actually work with them. It just adds more variables into it. But for this discussion, we're going to talk about a single quarry and a single pursuer.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just keep it at the simplest. All right. So in many systems, the next thing that's done is you need to set a distance between the quarry and the pursuer, right? So in our example before, when where are the Imperial Guards in relation to the characters when the characters start to run? Now, this could be an actual feat. So if your game is modeling reality, your chase system might be like, well, they're 120 feet away. That's our starting distance. Or you could have a abstract, arbitrary system where it is something like a number of units, position on a scale. There's a bunch of these, but so we could simply say, like, at that moment, they are 10 units apart because it's the beginning of a chase.
In addition, should be some sort of an escape threshold. Someplace, a position or number or value by which the quarry can reach, and then they win that chase. This can either be concrete, like they get to the end of the road, or they reach the gangplank to the starship, something along that line. Or it could be something abstract, when they get to the point when they are, when the pursuer is more than 5 units behind the quarry, or when the quarry makes it to the end of a certain number of units. That's how it goes. So,
yep. Absolutely. Yep. All right. So then once we've got a quarry and we got a pursuer, we've got some distance. Now we need to have some sort of check that both the quarry and the pursuers make. This is often a skill check. So depending on your game, depending on how you resolve this could be like a driving check, a piloting check. It could be something like an agility thing if you're running. Like your system will know. Your system will kind of tell you what it needs rolled, right? And in most cases, a successful check means that you advance, and a fail roll usually means you fail to advance. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
And in a lot of systems, there's also going to be hazards. These are things that are in the way of the pursuer or quarry that need to be evaded, destroyed, or overcome. They often require additional checks, and their outcomes can affect the outcome of the skill roll or the outcome of the actual chase move at that point. We're going to talk about these in a little while. So
yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. Hazards are one of those things that makes a chase exciting. We've seen chases in every kind of media possible. The hazards are some of the things that really make, dramatic. One, they make dramatic changes, and two, they're just fun. Like crashing through a cart in the middle of a suburban mall and like tripping and fumbling it over it, that kind of thing. Okay, cool. All right, so in many systems, you may also have during the chase time to conduct non-chase actions. Right, so this could be things like engaging in combat if something's nearby or in range. It could be casting spells, mending wounds, repairing systems on a ship, that kind of thing. Sometimes the quarry and pursuer, the ones who are making the check, can do these actions. Other times they can't, but if they have passengers, so if we're not talking about a foot race, but we're talking about something like a car speeding down, like through an Italian town, maybe the passenger can lean out the window and fire a few shots at the car behind it.
All right. And finally, you're going to recalculate those distances at the end of each action. That's going to be interpreting the outcomes of the checks for the party. And generally, a successful check equates to some value on the scale. There's going to be several different outcomes. First is that the quarry extends their lead. This is when the quarry succeeds at their check and the pursuer fails their check. The second is that the pursuer closes the distance. This is when the quarry fails their check and the pursuer succeeds, thereby gaining a little bit of distance. And the last is when the distance is maintained, which is going to happen when both succeed or both fail. And you can have one where they both succeed, but they both succeed by an amount that doesn't change the distance between them. A good example of watching this is watch the Aquaman movie, the fight versus Black Mantis people, where they're all running from building to building. There are several points where everybody's making skill checks, but they don't actually change the distance between themselves for a while. It's a good example to watch there.
Excellent.
All right.
So that's one turn. We then just do this whole thing, usually just at the skill checkpoint down, right? Because once you've established distances, after you've recalculated them, you go back to a new round of skill checks, hazards, non-combat actions, recalculate distance, and then you do it again until we meet one of those outcomes, right? The quarry escapes, the pursuer catches the quarry, or the pursuer can no longer give chase. Like, something has to happen for the chase to break down and end.
All right, excellent breakdown. Now let's take a look at some of the games that use this mechanic.
Sure. So we compiled a few systems that have these mechanics. I'm going to start with one of my favorites because I think it is easily one of my favorite chase mechanics I've ever run, and I've had it plays its genre very well, which is Night's Black Agents. And again, Night's Black Agents is a game that calls itself, Jason Bourne fighting vampires. And if you have seen any Jason Bourne movie, even a fraction of the number of times I have seen a Jason Bourne movie, you know that chases are a big part of that of those movies. There is a kick-ass chase in every game, in every one of those movies.
Different varieties of chases.
Yeah.
There's like, I'm running super fast to try and get away from people. There's I'm walking calmly, but still trying to get away from people. And then there's the car chases. Like there's a whole bunch of different kinds, and they're all great.
Yeah, you get a lot of. I mean, the chase. There are a number. When we could in the after show talk about some of the tropes of those movies because I love the tropes of those movies. But the chase is a very big one. All right, in Night's Black Agents, your quarry and pursuer are called the runner and the pursuer. So the runner is the quarry, the one who's trying to get away. They use an arbitrary scale of 0 to 10. With the conditions that at 0 the pursuer catches. Runner and pursuer. You have a lead scale of 0 to 10. At 0, the pursuer catches the runner, and at 10, the runner escapes. And then you make skill checks, and the results of those skill checks are then applied to the scale. And then there's also like a way for
there's a way for the runner to increase the difficulty of the next check to kind of simulate things like as you're running by, you push over a cart onto the ground and like, it's harder for you and it's also harder for the other, for the pursuer. I have run Knights Black Agents. We have done a couple of these, chases. We did one, in the catacombs of Paris. I don't know if Bob remembers that. It was a pretty kick-ass. It was a pretty kick-ass chase. Like it had all the tension and pacing of a good chase, and it was really it was a lot of fun. And it's not a hard subsystem to incorporate in the game. Like you pick it, like it picks up really quick. Jerry, tell me about Savage Worlds.
In Savage Worlds, they use a card mechanism plus skill checks. First, the GM picks a certain number of cards that they want to use to represent the length of the chase. So they're going to shuffle the cards and then place them face up in a line. Normally 9 is the standard, but for a longer chase, you can go further. And then each card represents a distance between the chaser and the chase, based on the type of chase. It's a foot chase, a vehicle chase, starship chase. Each card represents an arbitrary distance. And then skill checks are used to determine changes in that distance. And so you're going to roll driving or piloting. If you're doing a vehicle, you're going to be rolling athletics or climbing. If you have certain hobby skills, like in my Eberron game, Chris's character has the hobby of parkour, so he adds bonuses whenever he does this kind of stuff.
Does he have to yell parkour?
He does not have to yell parkour. We don't make him do that. And then in addition to the other things that are done when somebody's running or chasing, then the card suit that you are on when you make your dice roll determines the effect of a failed roll. And so filling a roll on a club is different than filling a roll on a heart, for example. And then on top of that, the GM can also simply set certain obstacles that are going to appear on certain cards. So if somebody reaches a spade, now a cart rolls out in front of them or whatever. And lastly, and this is one of the better changes to Savage Worlds today, is that if you're in a vehicle, the passengers can all make dice rolls that can affect what's going on. In the past, you drew initiative cards, and if your card was lower than the opponent, you just didn't get to act that turn. And that made a lot of problems. If you've played old Savage World chase rules, scrap them. The new chase rules work a lot better and allow everybody to act. And people can do things in addition to just shooting at somebody. They can do things like if you're on a starship. I'm going to try to get a little bit more energy out of the engines. I'm going to throw something out of the back of the car and try to slow the other person down. That sort of thing. And
divert power from inertial dampeners to the main warp engine.
You always divert life. Remember, life support is always the first thing they do. They divert, right?
It's usually a bad idea. Inertial dampeners is the one that makes the ship shake.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, yeah. Inertial dampeners?
Yes.
No.
The inertial dampers are the ones that keep you from going splat when you're going so fast.
That's the ones that keep you from going to splat. Structural integrity is what keeps the ship from falling apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
it's a decent system, and if run well and if you prepare for it, it can be a lot of fun. So I've actually I don't myself run it very well, but I've been in games where it's worked pretty good. Games like Crimson Skies and stuff like that. So, all right, Phil, tell us about Top Secret SI.
I thought I'd pick an old one, right? Top Secret SI, because
talk about deep delves.
Yeah, you youngins haven't played this game. Top Secret SI, if you don't know, is a espionage game from the 80s. Espionage games have chases as part and parcel.
Yep.
So I picked it out for a couple things. So one, it uses concrete distances on a map, or you got to just math it on a piece of paper. So when you're chasing, it's we are 300 feet away, and I made my skill check, so my car gains 140, feet, kind of thing. It's a very good demonstration of why most of these chases become arbitrary systems.
Yes,
because they get super mathy and not in a fun way.
Yeah.
what I really liked about this system, which I thought was really cool for GMs, is what they had was they had this like little flowchart thing on the GM screen, and it had these circles on it with so the flowchart had all these lines that connected to these circles, and the circles had like different intersections of lines, and the circles were numbered so that when you started a chase, the GM rolled a die and it would tell you what spot to start the chase on the little map, and the map's all interconnected. So you'd be like, okay, you are blazing down the road. You can take a 45-degree turn left or right, like a Y, right? And then the players would pick, and then from that you would like then go on the map and be like, okay, and there's a tight turn or whatever, and you made skill checks, and then you had a set of maneuvers that are like each turn the driver picked a maneuver. So one of the maneuvers was like close distance. One of the maneuvers was like increased distance. Some of the maneuvers were things like, the bootlegger turn, which is, if you played Car Wars or,
yep, I was going to say Car Wars. Love
you
the
played
bootlegger.
Car Wars. It's like the most difficult maneuver and it'll wreck your tires in Car Wars. Again, Car Wars is a game from the 80s. Anyway, you made those rolls, but you had to then, on paper, keep track of the number of feet. Also, because this is a game from the 80s, that number of feet was also important to determine what range you were at if somebody was going to try to shoot at another vehicle. So it wasn't the easiest system to run, but they did have a subsystem built, or they had a system built into the game to simulate it, because we're going to talk about in a minute about the importance of having chase mechanics in certain games, and Top Secret SI definitely tried to deliver that. Jared, the next one I stuck you with, I don't know if you ever had this. Did you have this supplement? I did. In the 2000s.
I didn't have it, but I played with it, but I never actually had it. And this is D20 Hot Pursuit from Adamant Entertainment. And I think that a lot of this got rolled into some of the later 3X and other games like this. But it basically is an arbitrary range system, based on range distances more than actual concrete numbers. You use your skill checks on the primary way to determine success and failure each turn. So driving, running, horseback riding, whatever your game happened to be, which was nice because it gave a bonus to those players who actually took the time to build a character with skills like that. And then they had maneuvers that each group could select that could affect what happened each turn. They were going to push harder, they were going to try to evade, that sort of thing. And lastly, it gave you a whole list of random hazards that could be avoided. And a lot of this got evolved into other games. And I think a lot of this, anybody here who's played Curse of the Crimson Throne from Pathfinder, will know that in the first adventure, there is a rooftop chase. That's actually the background in my thing here. And a lot of what I saw in D20 Hot Pursuit, kind of evolved itself into that chase scene in Curse of the Crimson Throne. I see a lot of the same kind of things with random hazards and things that players could do. So it's still, if you like D20 games, it would still, I think, be very effective with 5e today, or any of the OGL games that are out there. And it's worth a shot. It's on, you can get it on Drive-Thru RPG for $6, so $6.50. Mm-hmm. So if you want to incorporate chase mechanics into your D20 game and you don't want to adapt something from another system, this would be an easy way to do it with pretty much all the modifiers right there for you. So
yeah, pretty straightforward, and meant to be dropped into any. It'll work. I mean, it would work in any D20 fantasy, modern, etc.
Yep.
Lastly, I'll mention Fate, because I think that's since we mentioned Savage Worlds, I think it's always good to mention another good generic system. Fate is a pretty simple version of this. It's you would cover a chase using the contest rules, because you can cover other things with the contest rules too, but the contest rules are the best fit for a chase. You're going to use skill checks to determine advancement, but instead of having an arbitrary distance, what it has is each side has to accumulate 3 victories to win their outcome, right? So if you're the pursuer, You want three successful checks in order to catch the quarry. The quarry wants 3 successful checks in order to evade the pursuer. And so typically, like I said, the number is 3. But I believe somewhere else in one of the other Fate books, they will tell you if you want to have a longer chase, you can just make that number more, like first to 5, whatever. And if no one scores a victory, so this is like, so in our condition, right, we talked about, if the quarry gets is success and the pursuer doesn't, etc. If no one gets a victory, then an unexpected twist occurs and the GM basically throws something into the middle of the chase for everyone to deal with. And it's left super vague like that. Like it just simply says something unexpected occurs. And the GM, will have to come up with that. It's super light. I think one of the nice things about it is that if you just use the 3 victories, like you think like 3 victories are going to be easy to get, and they can be because, and I didn't mention this, if you succeed with style, I can't remember if you succeed with style or if you succeed and I forget. There's a way to get 2 successes on a single roll. So this race can end pretty quickly, which is why as a GM, you got to kind of determine, like, do you want this thing to be a long race? If you do, then you want to like bump this from 3 up to a higher number. If you want it to be a short race, like these guys are just trying to outrun the Imperial Guard, they either get away or don't, then 3 checks is great. But if I was doing a scene where I wanted to do a boat chase through the canals of Venice, spy thing where I wanted the whole scene to be a chase along with other stuff going on, I would definitely bump this up to like a 5 or 7 victory chase so that we could drag it out a bit more.
Okay.
So that's Fate. And then, Jerry, I think you wanted to just mention a couple tools and stuff, right, that kind of facilitate these things?
They're all kind of the same tools. There's a number of different chase cards you can get out there. There's some on Drive-Thru RPG. Paizo has put out 2 decks of chase cards in the past that get used for things like obstacles and other things. These all obviously need to be used with some caution and temperance. I mean, you don't want to draw a magic portal in the middle of a fantasy city if there's not going to be one there. But they're good for when you get a chase that occurs that you weren't expecting, and you need to come up with some random obstacles. And a lot of them have nice, concise rules for adding chases to other types of role-playing games out there. I know there's a free set on Drive-Thru. There's, like I said, Paizo has a couple of them. I think there's another set that's out there. It's a set of rules for just using a deck of cards in a similar way to Savage Worlds. So this is also a lot of fun if you have players that like some sort of physical representation on the tabletop that isn't necessarily hard and strong, but just kind of abstract. So that's what I got for tools.
Cool. All right, good stuff. Before we go to break, Jerry, can we talk about what kinds of experiences chases give us at the table?
Well, first of all, pardon me, chases are going to do a few things in the game. From a practical point of view, first of all, they're just going to provide a way to resolve the chase conflict between characters and NPCs. They make it more than just, you roll, I roll, okay, I won, chase is over. They give you something to do. There are many times when the characters may want to get away from someone or something, or times they want to catch someone or something, and you want to do it in more than just a simple exchange. The rules that are out there are going to provide a framework for determining what to do and how to add obstacles and how to make it more of a role-playing experience. And without these, the GM's just going to have to make something up. And there's enough good chase mechanics out there you can adapt them to other games.
Yeah, from a genre point of view, they provide a way to make chases interesting, exciting, and dramatic. And they help you emulate chases from genres. So if you're playing a genre that is known for having chases, so again, I go back to Knights Black Agents, right? The chase system in Knights Black Agents is great because if your tagline for the game, and Ken Hite has always described the game as Jason Bourne fighting vampires, then you expect to have some chases in your game, and you would be remiss as a designer
to miss having mechanics for that genre, right? So it helps enforce the genre. It gives the GM a set of tools that says, like, cool, you want to emulate a Jason Bourne movie? Let's have a car chase through some European town. Here's the system to make that happen.
Yep. Excuse me. From a story point of view, chases are going to be an exciting alternative to combat. They're a nice extended type of mechanical system that's not just shooting, it's a conflict or an exchange. It can also be used in a story when combat's either not possible or interesting. But you want to get some more mechanical and less narrative beat to the game. You want something to happen, but doesn't have to be necessarily combat. And as a result, it can be an alternative. And sometimes players will decide it's time to run. Or the villain may decide it's time to run. And rather than have to stick around and fight, they just choose to get away. And lastly, this is a great place for the GM players to highlight abilities that characters have, which could make the chase more interesting. A lot of game systems out there have perks, abilities, racial traits, species traits, things like that, that rarely come up in the game. But here's a time for somebody who, my character has fleet of foot. Well, in a chase, you should be getting some bonuses. Mm-hmm. My character has, excellent driver. Or your backstory. I was raised on a racetrack. I'm good at driving. This is the time to lean heavily into that and give the players a chance to really shine and reward the players for being creative and doing things. And it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, is that, I mean, if you're playing a game, if you're playing a game where everything is attrition mechanics, right? So hit points and things like that, where as you go through an adventure, you're grinding down hit points. Like, there are just some times where players do not want to get into a combat, right? Like we would not like to fight the Imperial Guard. We already have the MacGuffin. We would just like to get out of here and get back to our lair. And if you don't have those mechanics, it's like you said earlier, Jared, like if you don't have those mechanics, the GM's got to kind of like wedge something in here to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you have the mechanics, you're like, awesome, I guess we're having a chase. Right. And like now the players can, also do everything you said. Mm-hmm. And just avoid getting killed. Yeah. Because that's, very desirable.
We like not getting killed.
I mean, it's true. And you know what? Like in Hydro Hackers, and Hydro Hackers doesn't have a chase mechanic. You don't want to stick around and fight. It's not in your best interest to stick around and fight.
Yeah,
so
you don't stand and fight with the Water Authority.
No. By the time they show up, you want to be on your way out. Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, that's our look at how the chase mechanic works in a general sense, plus some examples from various games. We'll take a quick break, check in with the chat room. But before we do that, Bob is going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
That I am. Zhanggu Hustle. Train alongside fellow students Eric Farmer and Eli Kurtz in Zhanggu Hustle. Eric and Eli make their kung fu stronger by watching wuxia films and then discussing how to apply their observations to game design. Good stuff. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So the chat room, we definitely have, we have an interesting question from Chromatic Chameleon. Yes. Does the drive playbook in most PBTA games have special moves? And I'm guessing that's like the pilot, the driver, off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
I don't think they have special moves for chases, but I think they have special moves that allow them to do exceptional things with their vehicle.
Yeah, I think a lot of PBTA games, there isn't really like a set of chase mechanics. I think what it really comes down to is it's typically whatever the move under fire rule is. Mm-hmm. But often playbooks will either have a move to supplant that, like they have a cooler move than that, when you operate your vehicle at high speeds, ... Or mm-hmm. they'll have something that kind of gives you some, bonuses to that. And then the GMs, I'm thinking about this because we've played the Sprawl before and we had a driver in the Sprawl. Mm-hmm. And the way that I dealt with it, because the Sprawl doesn't have a formal chase mechanic, was basically this chase takes X number of turns to get through. Mm-hmm. Yep. And on a 6-, I can make that more. I could either have people catch up or I can introduce complications that are going to make this chase longer.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, you know, and then ultimately, like, if the bad guys are going to catch up, I'm going to take the soft move first. So your first failure, I'm like, oh, you know, they significantly close the gap with you. You know, they're not too far off your tail. And then, you know, that's my soft move. And then if you fail again, I'm going to take my hard move, which is like, you know, you try to get away, and as you're going around the corner, they accelerate, hit you in the back, you know, tail, and send your car spinning into the wall or something.
Yeah.
So no, most because most PBTA games don't get into like kind of crunchy things like chases. It's interesting because I have pondered that thought, like how, you know, like how else could you do a chase? I'm not 100% sure yet. I think what might be fun would be like if you were going to do something where you wanted an extended chase, like a deck of cards where some of the cards are just simply like, make this move. And some of them are custom moves like, oh no, like the 18-wheeler pulls out in the intersection. And, you know, it's like, make your drive roll on a 10+. You narrowly get around the 18-wheeler. On a 7 to 10, you slide under the 18-wheeler. Your vehicle takes X number of points as you shear the top on your vehicle. And on a 6-, you know, crash right into the side or something. Yeah, it's
7 to 9, not 7 to 10. Give us our 10, man. We need it.
I'm sorry, 7 to 9, 7 to 9. So you could do some, you know, like something like that would be interesting. But yeah, it's you got to, as a GM, if you're doing chases in a PBTA game, you just gotta kind of give it a narrative flow.
Yeah.
And I like the things like I like the soft move, and I've done a soft move in a positive way too, where I've said to I think it was Sean, who was our driver, like, oh, okay, with that successful, like with that 10+, you pull far enough ahead that like one more move like that, and you'll definitely lose these guys.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I also saw there was a mention. It was Chromatic Chameleon mentioned the James Bond 007 game. Not a game I ever owned. I always wanted it when I was a kid. It is like one of the few RPGs in the 80s I did not own, but apparently also had a chase mechanic, which is not surprising, considering, well, one, considering it's James Bond, but two, espionage movies have chases.
Yes.
Like, espionage and thrillers have chases. It is very much a part of that genre.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the chase mechanic. I do remember that the James Bond game in general, if I remember correctly, was kind of a complicated chart-based system.
Yes, because it was 80s.
Yes.
80s love charts.
It was fun to play. It was, but I don't remember. I just remember that the chases were difficult because your character was not James Bond.
Can I tell you the ugliest of the chart systems? So I have much love for the face rip system, right? I love that chart system.
Yep.
Do you recall, and then we're going to be old guys now, recalling old games. Do you recall the martial arts tables for the original Top Secret?
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
The original I'm going to tell this to the youngins. The original martial arts tables in Top Secret, which was a 1980 TSR product, I believe it was 80. You had offensive moves you could take and defensive moves you could take. Yeah. And then those were on a table and you had to cross-reference them. Like, I'm going to rabbit punch this guy, and he is going to do whatever. Yep. And then you would cross-reference it, and there would be a letter. And then you had to go to another table. And I don't even remember what you did with the letter, but I think it told you how to roll to see if you were successful or not. Like,
it was a thing.
And in some cases, you could simply like I'm going to jump high, and the other person's like, I'm going to step to the side, and nothing happens this turn. You just fly past them.
Yes.
It was very, those of you who played first edition AD&D, it's very similar to the grapple tables from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Plus an extra, take that table and add an extra chart to it.
Yeah, and the table was big. Like, it was not a small size table. And I remember being 11 years old and being just baffled by it. Like, all I wanted to do was have my spies punch each other. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, this is hard. Just shoot the guy. Like,
Well,
it just,
that's because Top Secret, the game itself, was it played at least and reads, and if you read it, it reads at least like a game that was never play tested. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't seem to work. It's another one of those games where you're professional spies, but a lot of your stats are Palladium levels, 22% kind of stuff.
yes.
And a lot of
not going to last long.
and a lot of rules for things that don't actually exist. So yeah, it was those charts though were
They were a thing, man. Like
I mean, I still love me some Rollmaster, but man, those Top Secret charts were horrible.
Rollmaster at least is like you can follow those. Like the chart tells you
It's
what
coherent,
happens. And
yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
the Top Secret one was like an extra level of abstraction, which was just brutal.
For me, the worst chart system for me was always the Torn / Blood Shadows chart system.
Oh, I don't even.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It was a really complicated chart system that basically came down to roll a d10 and add your stat and skill to it. I mean, it was a complicated way of them trying to avoid doing that, and it was
that.
Yeah, and the new Torn chart system is even worse. So
I am not sad that chart resolution is not a modern technology. Like, it
except
is
for face rip.
Face Rip's fine because it's a classic.
Yeah.
There are other games that I like. I mean, there are other games that totally do superheroes as well or better.
Yeah.
But chart systems, like if you were a kid in the mid '80s, every game had a chart. Like even D&D, because Thatco wasn't because armor class was ascending, not descending, not ascending. You wound up having a chart to avoid doing the math, so much so that I had the combat wheel from Dragon magazine.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Where you turn the wheel and be like, well, they're armor class -5, and I've got a 6th level paladin cross-reference need a 13.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that
that's
was
true or not.
terrible.
Somebody's going to be like,
you were close. 6th level paladin, you would have needed. You're right. 13 would have been the number.
Yes.
Good call.
I totally guessed.
Wow.
Minus strength bonus.
That was a
Good
lucky stab.
Oh, it made
Regarded
sense.
a board.
So,
I remember, and I'll just say this as an aside, we can jump back into the main segment. I remember when I got the Dragon magazine that had the information about 3rd edition. And one of the things I was most excited about was ascending armor class.
Yep.
Like when they explained ascending armor class, I'm like, well, why the hell haven't we used that the whole time?
Yeah, where has this been all my life? Yeah.
Why did I have to have a chart to hit for every class?
Do you remember
on my
the
DM
excitement
screen?
level when we started getting previews for that?
Yeah.
The excitement level was so high.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
So excited.
Second edition in THACO is what drove me away from D&D. And I didn't come back until 3rd edition.
Who was I telling that story to? I told that story recently about picking up the Dragon magazine in California, seeing the preview for 3rd edition, and then coming home and like showing you, and then all the ridiculousness. Like we took off the day to drive out to Millennium to buy our player handbooks.
Yep.
Oh, I was in the Bamboo Lounge. That's where it was. I was in the Bamboo Lounge telling the. People will hear it next week on the Bamboo Lounge. Never mind.
Never mind. He's told that story a bazillion times anyway, Senda, so it's not like we haven't.
I know.
Yeah.
He's told it on the mics on this show.
I just told it already. Yeah.
All right.
Anyhow.
But
last thing I want to say about the chat room. No, I'm not. Never mind. We'll save that for the after show. I don't want to. I don't want to get us off on another tangent. So, welcome back to the show. We're still talking about chase mechanics, and now we're going to have a roundtable discussion because that's how we do this. And we're going to start with the following question.
Yep. What are your tips for best using chase mechanics in a game?
All right, I'll start. I'll say keep it fast. Focus on what the characters are doing and what obstacles they encounter. Find ways to keep it interesting. And as always, encourage the players to use creative actions. As I said before, if a character is built around this sort of thing, hardcore skills, driving ace, pilot, backstory, whatever, lean heavily on their ideas. As I said, Chris's character in Eberron has parkour, and he was using it originally as a way to get bonuses to climb. That's what his character does. He's climbing, and ended up getting chased by 5 people, and not only used his bonuses to get away from them, but also to get behind them to where he was chasing them and picking them off one at a time. And lean on that. If players have things like local knowledge or anything in an area where they deliberately cultivated local help, let them use that. If the players have cultivated local help, if they've talked to people in this neighborhood, and they get something bonus, this is a good time to have, a crowd step out. Those of you who remember the first Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the scene where they are being chased by the Nazis and they pull into town and they pull through a garage door and everybody runs out and sets up a stall in front of the garage door so the bad guys can't catch it. That kind of thing happens. Mm-hmm. If your players have taken the time to establish that from a role-playing standpoint, let them get some mechanical bonus for them. And you know me, as always, give them some player narrative. Let them control the game a little bit, show something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make the chase exciting, and it's a lot of fun. Bob? What was that?
No, I said, yeah, I agree.
How about you, Phil?
So this one's gonna be a little tough. My best tip is if you're gonna run chases, you should get familiar with the rules, because a chase is all about tension, and the smoother you are executing the rules of the chase, the better you will be able to do to keep up the tension, right? So if you have to stop and be like, all right, what rolls do we have to make? Like, where do we, what are we doing here? And the reason I say this is because chase is never going to be your core mechanic, and it's not your combat mechanic. So it's always going to be a subsystem.
Yep.
So it's worth investing a little extra time, either outside the game to kind of study up on it, make a cheat sheet or cheat sheets, like a player-facing cheat sheet and a GM cheat sheet, like whatever it is, study up on this mechanic. I have in past games, I haven't had to do it in a while because games I've played haven't been this complicated, but I have in past games had like little mini sessions where all we did was the chase. Like we did that for D20 Star Wars, like where we just kind of tried that out just to get better at it. The Knights Black Agents one is actually really straightforward. The Fate one is super easy. So it really doesn't require that much practice, but you do have to kind of remember how, the rules work. So whatever it is, like if you have a chase coming up in a game, run through it, but run through it in your head, because you want to convey that tension, and the faster you can get through those iterations of the chase, the more it's going to feel like a chase. And then the other thing I would say is your narration's got to match it. Like you got to sell the chase, right? Yep. So you have all seen chases in many, many genres. So you just got to just when you are talking about it, especially when a system is abstract, talk about just play it out for everyone. Don't be like, okay, based on your 2 skill checks, we're now distance 4 from each other. You gotta at the end of each of those cycles, do the recap for everybody. Get in there and be like, and you come flying around a turn, tires smoking as you're, as you hug through this turn, and the chase car comes over, but jumps part of the curb and is opens fire and rips bullets through the side of your car as you swerve and take off down the road, spreading out the distance, that kind of stuff. With a combat, we do that a little bit in each combat, and when it drags on, we stop doing it. But a chase is supposed to feel like that, so make it feel like that. Really sell the chase. I loves a good chase.
Good stuff. Yeah, I didn't have a lot to add to that. So I'm gonna hit a couple of pieces from the chat room because they were good. Chromatic Chameleon said, "Fake it to keep it going." If you're not super familiar with it and you're doing your thing and you lose track of something or you're not 100% sure, just keep it moving. Fake it, keep it going, and as long as you're keeping up with the feel with the description and everything and attention, you can just blow through that and keep it going, and nobody's really going to probably notice it that much, especially if you're not all familiar with it. Andy said, have a glimmer of an idea about what will happen if the pursued get caught. All right?
Mhm.
Like, if your players are running away from the bad guys, don't assume that they're going to make it. You better have an idea that if they blow the rolls and they get caught, something's going to happen. What's going to happen next? Like, is it just going to devolve into a combat? Is something else going to... Like, make sure you have that in the back of your mind just in case. You hope they get through it because, you know, that's what they want, but... You don't
or the other way around. If they're chasing somebody...
Or if they're chasing somebody.
Will that person just give up?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've seen police chases where, you know, the police chase ends and the person kind of, you know, once the car stopped, that's it. And we've seen other ones where the car stops and, you know, the door flies open and, you know, the person takes off running or, you know, opens up fire or something like that. So, yeah, absolutely. You should know what happens next.
Yep.
I think that was a really good question.
That's a great tip. Thanks, Professor Fox.
Mhm.
Cool. What's our next question?
All right. Next question is, what kind of problems can chase mechanic cause? Bob?
Yeah, so I tried to think of something that you guys didn't already have. And I'm really, I was drawing a blank on this when I was setting up for the show and looking at the notes. So I'm gonna defer on this.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. I think that multiple pursuers and multiple quarries is going to make this whole thing more complicated. So, like, if the players are exiting the palace and the Imperial Guard see them and they're all like, run, and they all take off in different directions, like, now you're dealing with a much more complicated thing. You've got, like, you know, 6 quarries on a track, and now the guards have to divide up. Now you've got 12 things on this track or 6 individual tracks that you're maintaining. So as much as possible, kind of keep the players into, like, keep the quarries and the pursuers into the smallest number groups possible. It's not that you can't do it with with all of them. I don't think you will find it as much fun. Like, I think you will find it will be a lot to manage. I think it would be a lot to manage if that happens. So, you definitely want to try to avoid that and try to, if the players take off, the players take off, right? Unless they have, like, a really good reason for, like, okay, we're going to go this way and you guys take the MacGuffin and, like, you know, get it to, you know, the wizard. Like, then maybe 2. But I as much as possible, don't bloat it up. How about you, Jared? What do you got?
I say that if you're, just make sure that, if they're an overly complicated system, don't let them slow down the game. Don't let the chase become slow and methodical and everybody's sitting there trying to figure out exactly how to squeeze the best mechanical, effect out. Keep the chase and the turns fast so that the players and the story keep moving fast. And be aware that some chase tools that are out there have random effects that aren't going to fit or create situations. And make sure you don't end up with a chase system where only one person gets to act. If you're doing a starship game and, you know, you're trying to get the Millennium Falcon away from a bunch of starfighters, come up with a way for all the players to act as well. Otherwise, it just becomes one player versus the chase, the people pursuing them.
Yeah, I mean, just think in episode 7, it's way more interesting when Finn gets the bottom gun while Rey's doing the kick-ass flying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so basically just be aware of that so that you don't overcomplicate the chases. If you're going to have a chase in the game, be prepared for it ahead of time. So,
yeah,
that's it.
Cool. All right, then. Third question. What kinds of hacks or wish lists do you have for chase mechanics?
Yeah, I actually said a powered by the apocalypse chase mechanism. To go back to chromatic chameleons, like, I think it would be neat if there was something that was like a collection of moves, or something like that. Like, I'm thinking about it in my head right now of like maybe 3 moves where you've got a move that's like the middle of the chase, and then you've got like a move that's like about to catch or about to get away, and like you got to get enough points you can use the other move. Right. And then, and you know, if you're successful on that move, you get your desired outcome. Oh, actually, that's pretty good.
It's not bad.
That's not bad.
That works.
Write that down.
I'm like working through my head.
Yep.
Like, oh, that's not terrible.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting idea that I'm gonna go sketch out on a piece of paper later tonight.
And by
just to
paper,
see
you
what it
mean a
looks like.
screen.
Yeah.
But it's the kind of thing where you could be like, you start with 5 tokens, and make your, roll plus meat, roll plus synth, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
On a 10+ gain 2 tokens, right? On a 6- lose 2 tokens, and on a 7 to 9, gain a token, but also select one of these problems. And then your other 2 moves are like, when you run out of tokens, roll
Do
this move for how the chase ends against you. And when you get to 10 tokens, 7 tokens, whatever, roll this move to see how the chase ends in your favor.
Yeah.
And then you could simplify it even greater by just saying at 10 tokens, whatever. But I think it'd be fun to do it with moves, because then you could really kind of, genre it up a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now that we've said that.
There you go.
Okay, well, I'm going to, I got a little something to do while in between this and Star Trek tonight.
Look at
Interesting. Well, that was fun. Okay. Good. I'm done. Thanks. Thanks, Chromatic Chameleon.
All right.
What do you think, Jerry?
For me, I would say I'd like a better kind of generic card-based system. First of all, as you know, I like props. And I found that the games that use cards tend to have a quicker narrative effect and tend to get people focusing on the chase itself and not on all the mechanical side of things. But both the Pathfinder chase cards and the rules for Savage Worlds that use chases have some good tricks, but I think they need to be refined a little bit. The Pathfinder cards add way too many odd obstacles that aren't going to make sense. You really got to kind of curate that deck every time you try to do something with it.
Yeah.
And the Savage Worlds chase rules, while not bad, aren't perfect. They can be a little clumsy. I'd like to see something more. I'd love to see a better description of what all the cards mean. If you're preparing a chase ahead of time, you could actually make a list of what all 52 cards do. You can easily do something with that to make it more generic. So the players have some control over things. That's why I'd just like to see something simple like that. Because both of those would work well in just about every game system I've seen. You could import it to Fate, where your rolls are just going to be, fate checks. You can import it to something like Barbarians and Lemuria. It's just going to be a body check or an athletics check. Or Genesis Star Wars, where you can implement them. They may have a chase mechanic. I didn't look into that one tonight. But I just like to see, I like generic systems that work really well, that have kind of a slightly mechanical effect. I like my games a little bit crunchy. I don't like my games super crunchy, but I'm not always in the mood for a game that's got no crunch at all. And I think card-based systems tend to add a little bit of crunch while still getting that indie feel. Bob, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, thinking about it, I would like to see like the nirvana of this, or the pinnacle of chase tech, would be some kind of simple generic way to include everybody in the process. Because like you say, if the driver's driving and they're making the checks and there's 4 other players and they're all sitting there twiddling their thumbs while the driver drives, I mean, sure, the tension might be there, it might be exciting, but it's boring as hell for the 4 people sitting around waiting for the driver to get his turn to throw the roll the dice again. So if there was some way to give other people, like, you can shoot out the window and try and do this or whatever, or you can use your telekinesis to try and pull things into their path, like some quick, get people involved so that everybody can have a little help. So that would be my thing.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, it is critical. Like, here's a good GMing tip. Like, check out your chase mechanics in your game. If your chase mechanics don't have stuff for other people to do in the game, make your chase short. Yeah. Like, because then it's not fun. If Jerry's going to get to do all the driving
and literally everyone else just has to sit and watch Jerry roll dice. That's not exciting. When you have the thing where it's like the chase is integrated into combat turns or into initiative or turn order or whatever, I think it's a lot more interesting. And then, like Jerry said, if your game's like a step up and it's not only can you shoot things, but you could actually, like in Fate, if we were doing a starship chase, right? If I was the engineer, I could do a roll with advantage, or I could create an advantage to boost, boost power output.
Yeah.
Right. And, now I'm contributing to the chase because I'm putting this aspect down, with a couple of tokens on it for the person who's doing the piloting to be able to scoop them up and get a bigger roll.
Yeah.
We did that when I did, I do a Lego Star Wars Savage Worlds game. And one of the scenarios has a chase after the character's skiller for a starship. And one of the things we've done is, while you've got the pilot doing their piloting thing, and one or more gunners doing their gunner things, people like the engineer can do things to boost the shields. The computer players can do things to give them bonuses to their dice rolls, either through learning more information or even hacking. That is Genesis Star Wars. I forgot about that. Yes, Genesis Star Wars does have chase mechanics, because one of the things you can do is you can make an astromech or computer roll to mess with somebody else's scanners or make it more difficult to be detected. So anything like that I like, where you can implement ways for everybody gets to do something. And even if it's just like damage control, like R2-D2 running around putting out fires on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or the infamous, we're gonna get more energy out of our engines at the last minute because Scotty or Jordy or Miles manages to, add the flux capacitor to, everything else. So, yeah, that would work. I like that.
Cool.
All right. So that was our look at chase mechanics.
Yeah, we hope that the next time you want to run a chase that this will have been some help.
Let's check in one more time with the chat room before we head over to the conversation corner. Andy had a follow-up to her, make sure you have a plan in case the good guys fail the chase and get caught, and said her go-to is, you're all tied up in prison, and the baddies are arguing about what to do with you.
Yeah.
Which
that's
the
great.
all tied up part obviously is a favorite for some people.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So that's always good. And
this is the right thing, huh?
excuse me. Sorry, I got a drink. Go ahead. Somebody take over for a second.
Oh, sorry. Didn't realize you needed to bail out. What you call it? Capture's always better than killed. Night's Black Agents actually has a mechanic for this. Like, if you get captured, if you get interrogated, there's actually a thing in the rules about like, you either wind up somewhere later, like regaining consciousness, or like the doors left open. Like, there's a thing where it specifically says, like, if you capture a player, like, you also then let them go. Like, that's part of the part of the thing. But I will say, like, this is one of those cases, like, let's say you have one of these chases, and Andy's right? Like, you have, you're like, okay, look, if the guards catch these guys, they capture them.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not prepared for jailbreak night, right? Like, this may be a thing where suddenly your game has gone in a direction you weren't ready for, and maybe you'll just narrate you'll ad-lib your way out of this. But also you might have to, like, either take a break and be like, okay, well, now I got a whole jail thing. Like, I better look up some stats for some,
everybody take a $5 and
yeah, take a $5. Bob, do you have to go to the bathroom? Right? Like, that's how I do it in my game. I got a waterfall app on my phone. I just turned it on.
Hey.
But yeah, just acknowledge that you could wind up going somewhere in your session you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay to take a break. Sometimes it's okay to call it early.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wow, you guys totally got yourself captured. And I think this would be a really more exciting adventure if I had a little time to prep, what the what the Baron's, prison level beneath the keep is like.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up tonight. We can play we can play a board game for an hour or something, and we'll come back and we'll do this cool thing.
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise you might just be like, otherwise you might just be like, you know what? Everybody take a break. I'm going to quick write down a couple of aspects for a good prison. Yeah. I'm going to, quick get my name book and come up with a name for a couple guards, and we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, is this Man in the Iron Mask type scenario, or is this the jail cell in the Netherlands from Spider-Man Far From Home?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's also another good part, right? This could be a fun role play situation. And
yeah.
Yep.
It's like, well, come on, this is a cheese ball lock. We can push right through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And again,
they actually could have kept him. Like, they really couldn't have kept him in that jail.
No.
It was just he was just being nice about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like. I don't know. I know you're not a huge fan of the movie, but one of my the Superman Man of Steel movie, when he surrenders himself to the military and they put the handcuffs on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like going along with it. He's like, okay. Like, if it makes you feel better. And then at some point there's like a noise or something and he just breaks them. And he's like, oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, if I wanted you all dead, you'd all be dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I am God.
But it's more like, I want you to feel comfortable. So let's go through the motions here.
Yes. Let's maintain the illusion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, I think we're pretty much caught up with the chat room at the moment, so let's do the thing where we roll into the conversation corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, kids. Here we go.
What did I do on my week? What did I do during my week? I mean, listen, I yelled a lot.
Yes.
I yelled a lot at Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I did the thing. I really did the thing that I always do when I get super anxious, which is I consume a ridiculous amount of information to try to calm myself. So for most of the week, I really was like reading Twitter articles, watching things, like just as much as I could. And then, on Friday, he gets banned. That was exciting. But the other part that really made my weekend was Parler.
Yes.
I was one of those people who was tweeting AWS. Not that I think I contributed to it all, but I was tweeting AWS Cloud, their Twitter account, you guys are hosting this thing, and then that all came around during the weekend as ways to cope. I did run down a rabbit hole of considering getting a Raspberry Pi and building a retro Pi. And ultimately, I just talked myself out of it for the sole reason that I was trying to buy something to make myself less anxious, less angry, and building a emulator and then trying to get games to run on it, and some games are going to run, some games aren't. I was like, this will ultimately defeat the purpose of buying this. I will just get frustrated that I can't get, this game running, or this configuration's not going to work, or the software's not going to, start up properly or whatever. And I was like, this isn't going to do it. This won't make me feel better. So I ultimately talked myself out of that, and then wanted to talk myself into getting an Apple Pencil because I thought it might be fun as a change up for my gaming stuff to actually take some of my notes directly into OneNote instead of index cards and taking pictures of index cards and stuff like that. I thought it might just be fun to be able to write into my iPad and have it all go right into my game notes. So I'm going to mess around with that. I did that. I watched some YouTube videos. I watched an episode of a old TV show called 7 Days, which I won't name, names, but I will thank my dealer for finding a full set of the episodes out on the interwebs. It is a very obscure sci-fi show, but I have always wanted to run a game based on it, and I probably will someday. I did that. Did I do anything? I played some Minecraft. Ran Forbidden Lands, like we talked about at the top of the thing. And I started rereading The Sprawl, because when we wrap up our latest DCC module, my gaming group is going to switch to playing The Sprawl. And I'm excited about that because I really enjoyed The Sprawl. And I can talk about it in the after show or whatever, but I really wanted to play a PBTA game because I know people are going to be like, why not Cyberpunk Red? But I'm really missing playing something PBTA. So I split it down the middle and went with Cyberpunk, but PBTA. So, and I really dig The Sprawl. So we're going to play that again. But a lot of it was coping. Like, I ate a lot of bad food because I was really unhappy. and that's it. That's me. How about you, Jer?
Well, it's actually kind of a slow week. A lot of our games that we were planning on, just because of the chaos going on in the world at the time, didn't go off. So instead we had some game night chats, which were just as much fun.
We definitely did on Thursday. Yep.
And we also did one on Wednesday when our Band of Blades game would have played. So we did 2 in a row, but it was a chance for everybody to kind of chat and talk, and got back to a lot of stuff that I missed from some of our in-person games. Back when we used to have a lot of our Friday night games, a lot of times the game would end and we'd sit around at the apartment and just chat for an hour or so about other stuff, about movies you wanted to see or whatever. The kind of stuff we chat on and mumble, and that, but it was nice to just have a whole kind of time slot laid out for that. And a way for everybody to kind of de-stress from the chaos that was going on at the time. We played an excellent game of Dresden Files on Friday. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. I'm the only person that has only read a couple of Dresden File books. So I'm still kind of catching up to where things are. I'm having a lot of fun, but we're playing in a system I don't know that well, which is Fate, and we're playing in a world that I've only got a little bit of, which is, so I'm still trying to kind of figure out just what can we do. I'm the party spellcaster, and I'm not sure. I'm still kind of coming to terms with, am I like novice level? Am I like super powerful? And we're now at the point where we're going to have to start making some hard choices. It's a Chris game, so go figure. Yeah. That's part of the fun of his game. And so it's been neat. I was catching up on DS9 this week. I'm all caught up for this week, and I've watched the extra episodes. And I jumped into Cobra Kai. I'll leave that up for Bob, but I'll just say I'm 2 episodes away from the end of Cobra Kai, and it is, it's a lot of fun. It's a little stressing on me. It's a little triggering on me because I have trouble with the fact that, the adults in this world do, like, the number of times fights break out in places that even when I was in the 80s, an adult would have been there to stop it. And instead it's like, it's a prison. I've been in a lot of prisons. There are cameras everywhere. Nobody sees anything. That and the bullying can be a little triggering. The number of times the bad guys get to get away with stuff without any repercussions is a little tricky. It doesn't mean I don't like to watch it, but I'm aware of that when I watch it.
I definitely had similar like, I don't have a problem about the realism part, right? Like this show has departed from realism a while ago. Yeah. Yes. There are fights, like karate fights break out in all sorts of places, and that just happens. The bullying part is tough. Because it is, the first season has it a little, and then it drops off, and it kind of goes away. The second season, you kind of see the clouds on the horizon, but it's not too bad until towards the end. And this season, there's a lot of it.
Yep.
And I also was bullied in high school, so like I definitely, like, there were episodes where I was like I binged it all in one shot, but like there were episodes where I was super tense. And
that's why I did not watch it all in one sitting. I watched 3 episodes, then 2 episodes, and 2 because there was a lot of there are things that happen and the problem is, at least right now, it does not look like the bullies are going to get handed any sort of repercussions commiserate with the damage they've done. I don't know. They may, but so far it does not look like it. And that's part of what's bothering me is there damn well better be something good in the last couple episodes.
Are you're 2 episodes away?
I'm 2 episodes away. Yeah. And so far it's all downhill. So
keep watching.
Yeah.
I will say this. These guys know how to
looking forward to it.
These guys know how to write a 10 episode season.
Yeah. It's a lot of, but it's really good. It's a lot of fun. And I'm enjoying it all. It's like I'm going to I mean, we've talked before about how I need to be invested in characters. I'm invested in all the characters in this show. I mean, I want the bad guys to really get it.
I love the characters of this show. Like, I love them. I can't say enough nice things about this series. Like, this series is magnificent. Even if you never watched Karate Kid in the 80s, it is worth going to watch Karate Kid 1 and 2 and then just watching the show. Like, you don't even have to have been a part of it to just it's so enjoyable. And it's really like, from the first season, I said it the first season I watched it, there is no reason this show should be this good.
Yeah.
Like, and it just is. Like, it's just this good.
Mm-hmm.
I will start with Cobra Kai then, since we're in that space right now. But yeah, I am also 2 episodes away from the end. And the thing that's really standing out to me is they've done such a great job right out of the gate. If you've seen the Karate Kid movies, Daniel was the good guy, Johnny was the bad guy, and that was kind of how it was. And you come into this show, and right out of the gate, they're like, is it true anymore? Is it true that that this is, like, have they switched? Is it fluid? Like, you get to be like, who's the good guy in this show and who's the bad guy? I don't know. You go through multiple episodes where you're like, fuck if I know who's the good guy in there. But it's keeping it interesting, and they're telling a very interesting story, and the callbacks, like in this season, the callbacks to Karate Kid 2, that's all I'm going to say. Just like, I'm like, this is awesome. You know? And it's just like, there's one thing that I wish they would have done a little bit differently, mainly for the people who haven't seen Karate Kid 2. Because a lot of times they'll do flashbacks and they'll show you the bit that they're referencing. And so you kind of have the context. But there's one thing that I wish they would have done a little differently, and we'll talk about that later someday. But yeah, Cobra Kai, super well done. And I'm glad that that they were able to get a platform to continue. Season 4 is on the horizon at some point. So good times.
I will say one last thing about it, because we rant and rave about it. While the callback characters are excellent and so much fun to watch, the kids in the episodes are fantastic. Like,
they did a real nice job in getting younger actors and actresses that are just so good.
Yeah, I mean, Miguel is like one of my Miguel is my favorite character. Like, I just love this kid. Like, I love his whole story arc, everything. Like, he's so good.
Yeah, good stuff.
Anyway, so listen, if you're listening to this and you haven't started watching this yet, I don't know how many more times we can tell you.
Honestly, it's well worth the watch. Unless you have serious problems with bullying and violence, like. And
then I would just, content warn, watch it like Jerry did, like watch it and then watch it in little batches.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's high school stuff. So, I mean, the bullying is a lot of is your typical high school bully stuff.
Yep.
You walk past somebody in the hallway and you knock their books on the ground. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
There's a funny scene with that. I won't say. There's a great scene with that. Yes.
But,
say no more. Yep, absolutely.
That's all I'm saying. You saw that. That's good.
The other thing I've been working my way through is season 1 of The Last Airbender. I'm getting close to the end of that. I think I'm about to hit episode 20. I think there's like 26 or something like that in the first season. I have seen all of season 1 before. As I'm getting deeper into it, I'm like, I remember this. I remember this. So I have seen it before, but I went back and I wanted to watch the whole thing because I'm going to go through and watch the entire 3 seasons because I never got into season 3. But working my way through that, super, super stoked for WandaVision on Friday.
Oh,
Their
boy.
early reviews are out. And basically,
did I hear they're doing 2 episodes this week and then 1 a week after that?
yes, the first 2 episodes are dropping this week on Friday, and then they're doing 1 a week for 8 more weeks or 9 more.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 10 total.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super interesting to hear the things that are being said about it. Because this is Marvel Studios' first TV show. All the other ones, Marvel was involved, but this is Feige's babies. And they're definitely connected, not peripherally connected like the other shows were. These are part and parcel of the whole bigger, MCU. Universe. And the trip that they're going to send us on with this, it's a nostalgia ride through sitcom TV.
Yep.
It's a weird trip through Wanda's mental state. There's other things going on. Like
it feels like it's going to be some sort of MCU version of House of M.
That's they're doing a twist on that general idea. She has a break from reality because of reasons, and the thing that they haven't spoiled yet with any of the stuff that's out is what is actually here. We know she's had some kind of break, because her boyfriend, the love of her life, was destroyed, and then she basically blew him up. Then Thanos brought him back, and Thanos killed him. And then she got dusted, and then she came back and and had to fight Thanos. And it's like her mental state is precarious, and something happens, and she makes this. Something makes this world. There's a trauma, and now she's with the Vision in this idyllic setting, sort of.
Yep.
What's going on? We don't know.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. The other thing that I've been reading up on is that they've been very fluid, rather than doing what they did with Netflix and the Defenders shows, where it was like, these are 13 episodes. The length of each episode is slightly fluid, but it's roughly 50 minutes, an hour, whatever. And we're 13 episodes. No, this is they're not all the same. WandaVision
The Mandalorian.
WandaVision is 10 episodes, roughly, give or take. I think, are these the ones that are an hour, or are these a half an hour? I forget. But they're set rough length, and the 10 episodes are like that. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a slightly different paradigm. When they come in with Loki, Loki is a different length. Each one, depending on what they're telling, right, is a different length and number of episodes. One of the other shows is 10 1-hour-ish episodes. There's one of the shows is 8 half-an-hour episodes-ish. So they're being fluid with the number of episodes that they've got, depending on the story they're telling, and they're getting fluid with the length of the episodes based on what they're doing in that episode. Which, prior to that, the only thing that was really fluid was the length of the episode, but they were roughly in the hour range. But it was we're telling 13 episodes, and we know, Jerry, that was a failing of those Netflix shows.
Yes.
You didn't have 13 episodes worth of story, so you padded and you stretched and you manipulated, and it's they're taking that into consideration with these new Disney Plus shows, and I appreciate that greatly.
I love that.
Very much looking forward to what's going on.
That should be very cool.
Yeah. Other than that, we already talked about Forbidden Lands. That was another fun session. Dresden Files was a really good time on Friday night. My character we all got to meet the goddess Aphrodite. Like, literally the goddess Aphrodite. And my character instantly fell in love with her. Like, okay. And she thinks I'm cute. So there's that, you know? I mean, that's, you know, how do you handle something like that? You know, it's a goddess, you know?
We actually
that was
ended things
good.
well with her, too. Like,
Yeah.
you could probably call on her for
Probably the best thing for you for survival.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was that. Football is going to be interesting going forward because I need to manage my stress levels while I'm watching football a lot better. You know, and then, you know, of course, dealing with the coup. You know, there was the gummy incident, which for those that don't know, I am not a person who normally participates in the partaking of mind altering substances other than alcohol, which is just a depressant, right?
Yes.
And I learned a long time ago that alcohol will fuck you up. So, you know, I try to not be one of those people that's like, all like, let's go get fucked up drunk, or anything like that, especially when I'm around or in conversation with people who have issues. You know, a good friend of ours, Kevin Lovecraft, he's been off alcohol for a long time, a good long stretch. And every time he hits a milestone, man, I'm there for him. I'm congratulating him.
It's always nice to see when he posts those.
So I generally don't like sit and talk about, you know, like my alcohol consumption in any kind of glorifying way or anything like that. I will sip whiskey, scotch, bourbon occasionally here and there, and that's usually the maximum. But I had a lot of pain the other day and was stressing out, and my housemate offered me a gummy, and I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna see what happens. And it was interesting. Didn't really enjoy it that much. The pain went away. My arthritis pain was like, oh, never mind. I won't bother you anymore.
Yeah, right.
But the feeling, the overall, like it was just it. In hindsight, I did not enjoy it. It was not something that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this a lot. So,
I was gonna say it's too bad because our governor is getting on board.
Yeah, you know, but there are other ways to like there are substances, chemical compounds, whatever that are included in the whole pot thing that will help with like pain management, but will not get you high.
Well, sure,
Like
CBD, like on the CBD.
There's the whole
kind of
CBD thing. So I've got options for managing my arthritis pain going forward, which is going to be a thing because I have degenerative arthritis in my right toe, my right big toe, in my right shoulder, and in my neck. This is going to be an ongoing problem for the rest of my life. I get a shot in my foot now. The first shot that I ever got in my foot lasted me a year. 6 months, sorry. It lasted me 6 months. The shot that I got most recently, my second shot, I got in October, and my foot hurts like hell. That one didn't last as long. Don't know why. But that's going to be a thing. So, and I'm dragging the conversation corner out. So I'm going to wrap this up
probably proceed
with saying, yeah, there's stuff that's going on, and deal with it when you can. But yeah, there's other ways I can deal with that than going down the road of the experiment that I tried.
Because he got high.
Because I got high.
Got high.
Yeah, how appropriate for the 420 episode.
Yeah, right?
That's right.
So that, my friends, as always, is the conversation corner. We are going to do the Patreon shout-outs and then get ourselves into the after show, which is where the fun really begins.
That's right.
So, thank you for being our patrons, Joe Rasso, John, with no last name, MT Black, Matthew Petrozelli, Michael Draper, Mike Olson, Padme's Lover, Robert Dorgan, Ryan Bolter, Texas Bento, and Troy Pitchelman. And thanks to everyone out there for listening tonight and joining us in the chat room.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's Time, come join us live on Twitch, where you can hang out in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
And if you cannot make the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcast. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Mastering Dungeons, Bones Thrown Obsidian, The FM Gamers, Panda's Talking Games, The Gnomecast, Jangu Hustle, The Lounge, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
As you come screaming around the corner and ready to drop it into fourth gear to dust those suckers, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly at the old-fashioned email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Hit us up on Twitter. The show, the network, is at misdirectedmark. He is at Robert M. Everson. He is GM Gerrymander, and I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Zhanghu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhanghu Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out!